All right, y'all. I've tried to film this video 3 times already, and nothing is coming out right. And I keep forgetting that I'm not gonna. So one of my goals for this podcast is to edit as little as possible, because executive dysfunction is one of the reasons that I have not made video content before. So I want to set myself up for success, and we're just gonna try and do this in one take, and that's how it's gonna go. So hello, welcome. My name is Catherine. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the creative brains behind Ginger Dog Knits. Woo, welcome. I have been on Instagram for like a year and a half, kind of just spreading my fibery wings on the internet. I've knit for most of my life, but I have never done it socially, so to speak. I never even knew that there was a knitting community, aside from like old ladies who knit in the library once a week, things like that. So when I was a kid, I would just knit in my house and make endless little garter square swatches, and I had 4 balls of yarn, and I would just like frog it and redo it every time I finished something. And now that's not how that looks anymore. Now I am an adult with resources aplenty and my own time and money and friends and things like that. So I can kind of do what I want. So that's why I'm here. I have never in my life before made video content that I was proud of, that I felt was authentic. And I was kind of unpacking that with my therapist, because that's something I've always really wanted to do. Even if it's uncomfortable to put yourself out there on the internet, whatever. I mean, video content is just expected nowadays if you want to do anything entrepreneurial. And my therapist suggested doing something unmonetized. So we're going to do that. Not to say that I don't publish patterns, because I do. Not to say that I'm not active in that way, but that's not the point of this. I want this to be for me. I want this to be my little unmasking project. And you'll notice that's why I'm knitting. Not only because it's like a knit and chat kind of style thing. I hope you can also grab your knitting and knit along with me, or you're spinning or crocheting or whatever. But I want to do this as the beginning of an unmasking journey, because I'm autistic, and that is one of the number one things that causes me difficulty on a day-to-day basis, is not knowing how to unmask. So you'll notice I'm not making a ton of contact with the camera, like eye contact with the camera. I'm doing that on purpose. I'm going to try not to filter myself down as much as I can. I'm going to try not to edit these. I just want them to be like a one take, one shot kind of deal. I want it to be low effort. Not low effort, but I want it to be high payoff for a lower amount of effort. I'm trying to do the whole like work smarter, not harder thing here. So I'm just going to chat, and we're just going to hang out. And I've set up a couple of fun little bits and pieces that we can do together in this little corner of things. So I want to talk about my projects. I want to talk about my designs a little bit. I want to talk about my spinning. We'll talk about some other parts of my life, because we're multifaceted people, and I am more than just fiber arts too. Outside of the knitting world, professionally, I work in college housing. So I work in college student affairs. I also have my master's degree in student affairs administration. Fun fact. So that is my like day job career. And when I am not on campus doing my thing, at the college that I work at, I am designing knitting patterns for fun. This is really unique in that it's one of the only things in my life that I have not consciously tried to like monetize career sort of wise. Like, I do still charge for the patterns that I design, but it's more because like it's more so like a gesture of like energy exchange for me, if that makes sense. It's not so much like trying to make a living off of it, if that makes sense. It's like I put energy into this, and you are exchanging your energy with me in the form of giving me money and then knitting the pattern that I wrote. So that's kind of more what it means to me. It's not supposed to be a career thing for me. I don't intend on doing it full time unless things change in the future, but like right now I don't see myself doing that. It's not something I'm interested in. I just love to knit. And sometimes I want to create something that doesn't exist, and that's just what it is for me, and I love that. And I don't see a ton of podcasts or knitting creators or designers that have that aspiration, or even lack of aspiration, I guess you could call it. So I want to create space for that and have this just be my special interest corner, because that's what knitting is for me. It's an autistic special interest, and I'm trying to be very upfront about all of the parts of me that I don't share about daily, because I'm trying to destigmatize some shit in the knitting community. And we're going to have some hot takes here. Like, this is a community where queer people aren't always accepted. And there is a lot of just skinny, cis white women that are considered the face of the industry. And I want to change that. I want to, and I think this has changed a lot in the past few decades, and even more now. Like, this is such a diverse community, and still very often I keep bunking my microphone. Very often still the people that we see getting spotlighted and highlighted are that very typical picture of who a knitter is. Like the older cis, straight, usually white ladies. And even now, like younger white women, like the people who are always modeling the hot right now patterns. I'm talking like a 70-year-old, Jesus Christ. When you see those beautifully modeled photos on Ravelry, they're almost always skinny cis white women. Almost always. Not always, but almost always. And I just want to add another experience to the pot that's not that. I am not a straight size. I weigh almost 250 pounds, and I am 5'6", so I'm almost always knitting to the middle or higher end of that size range. I'm neurodivergent, and knitting is a stim for me. It's a healthcare need. Like, this is not just a hobby for me. This is survival. And I want to add that narrative to this stuff, because I think it's interesting, and I think it's also necessary for us to understand each other in this community. And I want to meet more people like me, and I want this to be a place where you can all be safely vocal about being that. I do also want to say something I want to do down the line. This might not be a right now thing, but I'm toying with the idea of starting a Discord server, just as kind of a safe place to land for those of us who are not traditionally well represented in the knitting world. I think that would be a really fun thing to do. So I don't know. I'm still tossing around the idea. I don't know if I have enough energy to moderate it, to be completely honest. So if that's something you really want to do, let me know, because interest expressed to me is going to tell me that that's something people want. So if that's something you want to do, definitely keep me posted, because that's going to help me make my decision. But that aside, I mean, I want to jump into some projects I'm working on right now. I'll probably start with what I'm knitting on right now. And I've got a couple of other things to talk about coming up down the pipe for me in the fiber world. So, and also in the not so fiber world. Another thing, so before I really jump into like the content of it all, I also want to do, I'm also a professional tarot reader. That's my monetized side hustle thing. That I take clients. That's like my second stream of income. So I also want to integrate my spirituality into this space a little bit and close every episode with a little tarot reading. So we're going to do that right at the end. We're going to have our little tarot time, and if you want to skip it, you can just send your video before we do that. So I'm going to get to the knitting now, and I will talk about first what I am currently working on. So this is my own design. Actually, no, I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing first, because I have a couple other works in progress I want to talk about. So this is the Downtown Hoodie by Tori. You can find her at Tori Knits NYC on Instagram. And this was a test knit that I did for Tori in January, February of 2023. And I love it. I think it turned out a little small because my gauge was off. So my sleeves are a bit short, but I actually don't mind it because they don't get in my way, and I tend to knit my sleeves a bit shorter anyway. I think if I had to redo it, I would knit the sleeves about an inch longer. But again, I don't hate it, and I tend to just cuff them like this anyway, because I like the way that it looks. And also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I run very, very hot. So a lot of my knits end up being a lighter weight yarn, or like a t-shirt and not a sweater. I knit a lot of shawls because I can take them off easy. But I do want to, I want to knit some more sweaters. That's a goal I have for 2023. So I have a couple of sweater patterns picked out I want to knit, but that's besides the point. This is a DK weight hoodie. It's a raglan construction. You can see the raglan seam here. And it's a deep-ish raglan. I would call it a medium. I got to take a gleaner to this thing. I knit this in American U DK yarn, which is a non-superwash DK weight yarn. I'm not home. I wish I had my scraps with me. But I do have like a full skein of this left in both colors. And this is a yarn that's sold by Cece's Wool, which is one of my local yarn stores. So Cece's is in Guilderland, New York, which is about half an hour away from me. And then I've also got Common Thread, which is right in downtown Saratoga. And I'm going to tuck my foot up here because it's freezing. I don't have socks on. So the downtown hoodie, this was a really fun knit. My only gripe about this is that the hood is too small for my head. But I'm not sure if that's a gauge thing or a pattern thing. And I think because of the sleeve issue, I'm convinced it's a gauge thing. So I think that one's my bad. But it's got this cute little contrasting I-cord drawstring to it. I'll stand up so you can see the length. It's kind of just a nice mid-length sweater. I do eventually, I think I want to make a larger one in a solid color, but that's a later thing. I don't want to do that right now because I have too many other projects on my needles or on the queue coming up for the next few months. So that'll probably be a couple of years from now if that does end up happening. But it's my downtown hoodie. And this is probably one of my most worn knits. I wear this all the time, so you will probably see this again. Yeah, I think that's all the knitwear I'm wearing, right? I'm not wearing socks. Cool. So I'm going to get into what I'm knitting at the moment. I have 3 works in progress right now. This first one, I am halfway through a row, so I'm going to be very ginger about lifting it up. Ginger. Ha! I'm funny. I have such a dad joke sense of humor. So this is the Rivers and Roads Cowl. This is my design. It's hard to see, but this is what the fabric looks like. And this is knit up in, oh, I forgot to say, this downtown sweater, the colorways that I worked this up in the American U yarn, and I will link this in the description. The brown is called Root Beer, and this is called Weeping Willow, the green. I always forget about colorway. Anyway, Rivers and Roads Cowl. This is my design, and I'm knitting a second sample of this because I wanted to take a couple of videos for my test knitters of some techniques that were tripping them up, because I have one test knitter who is new to brioche. Hi, Amy. Amazing job, by the way. Amy's killing it. This is syncopated brioche, and it's knit on the bias. So this pattern is actually, this is kind of a 2-in-1 design spotlight moment because this pattern's coming out in February. So this is my first sample. It's just seamed at the back, and it's knit on the bias. It's like a bandana style cowl. So you just throw it over your head. I'm going to ruffle my microphone when I do this, but this is how it looks. And this is one of the coziest things I've ever knit. I don't know how well you can hear that. But it's great for under a coat because it kind of, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take this out. I think we're back. Sorry, my phone storage was full. Of course, every time. I got to focus this sucker. Hold on. Yeah, now we're talking. All right. So the Rivers and Roads Cowl, I believe I was just talking about. This is, I really like this because it has a lot of structure to it. So it's pretty long on the top portion, and it stacks on itself pretty tall. So it's great for wearing under a coat because it kind of mirrors a scarf, but it covers more of your front. So I love this for outerwear. It is very warm. So I don't wear this indoors, personally, this one. This yarn is Explorer Knits and Fibers Boucle DK. And full disclosure, yarn support was provided for this pattern. So I designed this pattern in collaboration with them. This was inspired by their National Parks collection. I'm gonna try and get close so you can see the fabric. It's really beautiful. It's very, very hard to see. Hold on. Maybe. There we go. But I'm having a boucle moment lately. Boucle yarn, for those who don't know, is a yarn construction that, this is where I kind of get into the spinning talk too. It's a yarn construction where you spin one singles, so just one straight away piece of wool, essentially, for those who are not spinners. And then you'll take that singles, instead of plying it with another singles, you'll ply it on an inelastic piece of thread. It's usually inelastic, it's like cotton or something most times. And that's called a binder. And then you'll do it in the other direction as well. And that creates these beautiful loops. You kind of loop it onto that thread as you're spinning it. So it's got these beautiful, it's this very textured, kind of loopy, boucle literally in French means to curl. So it's this curly yarn, and it creates this beautiful loopy texture. But I'm also knitting a non-boucle version because a lot of folks don't like boucle and want to see how it looks knit up in a different kind of yarn. So that's what this is. The Rivers and Roads Cowl, like I said, it releases in February. I believe February 9th is the date that I'm shooting for. So you will see more of this in the future. But this is a really, really good like deep winter accessory. So I'm knitting this one up in a superwash yarn to have a little bit, that's also superwash, but this is a knot and boucle, so it's a slightly different construction. Hello, Benny. Sorry, my mom's dog is making whale noises. How are you? My sweet boy. This yarn is Nerdy Knits in 3 different bases. Hello, sweet girl. Hi. What was I just saying about you being a noisy puppy? Kiss my baby. So, this is Millie, by the way. My nakey puppy. She's such a sweetie and I love her. This yarn is Nerdy Knits DK, which is this variegated one. It's I'm trying to do this one-handed and it's not doing so well. Honey, you're not a very good helper. Okay, sorry, I take it back. You're the best helper. You're the best helper. I love you. Okay. The variegated yarn is Nerdy Knits DK in the colorway Zelda. This is from their Tears of the Kingdom inspired collection. Full disclosure, I'm a huge Zelda head. I love Zelda. That's one of my favorite franchises. I love video games, and Zelda and Pokemon are my 2 all-time favorites. So of course I had to make a Zelda cowl. So the variegated is the colorway Zelda, and then the other one, the contrast, well, there's not really a contrast color, it's just a color 1 and a color 2. But that tonal, the really beautiful teal color, it's like not quite teal, it's not quite bottle green. That is the colorway Zonai in Sport and Mohair held double. If you're gonna play, can we not do it on top of me? Okay, great, good talk. Go play, go play with Benny. Go play, and not loudly, please. Yeah, so the mohair adds this really nice halo. Oh God, they're gonna be loud. This really beautiful halo to the fabric, and then the superwash yarn is just so soft. Nerdy Knits is one of my favorite indie dyers. You really have to follow her right now. All of her colorways are phenomenal, but these are some of my favorite that she's ever produced. So I'm really excited for this to be done. I'm on section 3 of 3. So I just have to finish the decreases and then really do my bind off. So hoping for that to be done in the next few days. What else is on my needles? I have to dig in my knitting bag for a minute. Can you guys go somewhere else, please? I'm knitting. Good Lord, with the freaking phone storage. I think I finally fixed it. Anyway, what was I just saying about no editing? So I'm making a blanket for my grandpa. Fun story. He told me he wanted a purple blanket. This man has never said that he likes purple. His favorite colors are like blues and greens and like neutrals. I was expecting him to say green when I asked him what color blanket he wanted. So he said he wanted a purple blanket. So I'm making him a purple blanket. This is the Candle Flame Lapghan from Nancy Marchant, and it is such a wonderful pattern. It's beautiful. This might be one of the prettiest things I've ever made, and this is actually this is a very sentimental project for me because the yarn is actually from my late grandmother's stash, not his wife, my dad's mom. So I only have one grandfather. He's my mom's mom. My dad's mom passed away in May of this year, and she left me her whole yarn stash. It's mostly acrylic, and I don't knit with acrylic because I hate the way that it feels. But my grandfather, having dementia and loving chocolate pudding the way that he does, can only have acrylic because he just gets chocolate on everything. He's an old guy who like has bodily fluid issues sometimes, and the nurses just have to be able to throw it in the wash. So this is an acrylic yarn from my late grandmother's stash, one of many family heirloom projects that I'm making with it. And you will see across the span of the next year or so, I'm going to be making a lot more projects with her yarn for my family members as heirlooms to remember her by. So that's another reason I wanted to start this podcast, to kind of track that journey. So this is the first of many projects I've created with her yarn. And I don't remember what brand this yarn is. It's just like a plain worsted acrylic that you could have gotten at a craft store. I don't know what brand. It's probably some Lion brand, something or other. But it's very pretty, and I'm very proud of it. And I have a couple more repeats of the brioche because I just want it to be lap-sized because he's not super mobile. So I want him to be able to throw it on his lap while watching TV and not trip over it. So there's that. There's the blanket. And then I only have one other project on my needles at the moment, which sometimes is a miracle. I am knitting my partner a pair of socks. I almost always have socks on my needles, just as like a waiting in line kind of thing. But this is my pattern, the classic simple socks. This is just my plain vanilla sock pattern. It's got a German short row heel. I'll show you what it looks like. It's completely seamless. So you start at the cuff with a very, very stretchy cast on, do your ribbing, your leg to the specifications you want. It's a very customizable pattern. The heel is a short row heel, so you'll follow directions. Let me see if it'll focus. You'll follow the directions in the pattern for that, and then knit the foot, and the toe is just grafted together. So no seams at all. And being an autistic person, that's very important for me because one of the biggest places that my autism likes to show up is in sensory perception, and especially tactile sensation, which is why knitting is such a great stim for me. So I'm about almost done with the leg on the second sock. I've been working on these since summer, so I have a feeling they're just going to stay there until I'm done with my other two projects. So I'm going to focus on this for the moment because this I want to get done for my test knitters so that they have a reference before they panic over the holidays and realize they don't know what they're doing while they're knitting at Christmas dinner or whatever. So that is that for my works in progress. I do also want to show off a couple of recent finished objects. So I recently finished, many of you know if you've been following me on Instagram for quite some time, I got this inspiration for a shawl design months ago. This was like March or April or something like that. This was ages ago. I designed this beautiful shawl and I sketched it on a moment's notice at work, and then I cast it on and it just wasn't working the way that I wanted it to. And it was my handspun and this beautiful Surrey alpaca, and I didn't want it to go to waste because it's such beautiful yarn. And I was just so sick of this shawl pattern, and there was no way I was going to write it and publish it. It just wasn't happening. So I just cut my losses at that point. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make something for me. My God, the phone storage shit. I had to just fucking annoying. Anyway, now I'm all washed out, which is super fun. Anyway, so I wanted to use this special yarn for a special project. And so I cast something completely unrelated on that I didn't design. And now my lighting is all fucked up. Come on, y'all, really? Like I mentioned, this is a swearing-friendly podcast, so if that's not your jam, this is not the place for you. So this is the Killer Queen Cowl by Mary Annarella. and it is beautiful. This might be one of my favorite things I've ever knit. I'm going to put it on, and it's also going to go over my microphone, but I want you to see it on my body because it looks beautiful. So this is the cowl. And as you can see, it's lovely. I love the color. I didn't think it was going to turn out so green, but the green in the Surrey alpaca really brings out the green in the handspun. So the Surrey is Farmer's Daughter Fibers Odang, which beautiful yarn, amazing fiber, which is why I didn't want it to go to waste because it's expensive yarn. It's really nice, and I bought it myself. This was not a yarn support pattern. And the handspun is a combo spin. So I spun a braid of 70/30 merino nylon and a braid of Rambouillet, both from Onina Hand-Dyed Fibers, which is one of my favorite fiber companies. Spun them as separate singles and then I applied them together. So this is like somewhere between a sport and a DK weight. This was one of my earlier spins, and it was one of the first spins I ever did on my electric wheel. So I was very clearly still getting the hang of it. It's not the best yarn I've ever spun, but it is extremely soft and extremely like squishy because of that Rambouillet content. Which I know that's not the like classical French way to pronounce that word. I know it's a sheep breed, and that's the Americanized, generally yarn community approved pronunciation as far as I know. So that is the Killer Queen cowl. And I've been wearing that ever since it came off the blocking mat, so I'm obsessed with that. Definitely having a moment. Benny, enough! Oh my God. Benson! My mom's dog. He's the youngest of my two and him, and he does not know how to say no. So they're wrestling in the other room, and Millie is not having it. My other finished object is my Thanksgiving shawl. So I finished this on Thanksgiving as I was getting called to dinner. This is the Curvette shawl by Stephen West, and it's so big I don't think I can fit it on camera. It's a schlanket, and I'm actually going to put it on my lap because my feet are cold. This is the biggest shawl I've ever knit. It's huge, and it grew when it blocked too. It was big before it blocked it, and now it's even bigger. This is knit up in Malabrigo Mechita, which is a fingering weight version of their Mecha yarn, which is a superwash single ply. And I think it's bulky weight. This is fingering weight, so this is just a skinnier version of it. I could be wrong. It could be DK. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But the Mechita is fingering for sure. I did everything in this pattern the exact same way it was written, except in between colors, instead of just treating them as a big block of color like the pattern does, I faded them for 2 repeats of that pattern. So I just kind of alternated the skeins. And I ran out of every single color except for this orange that I started with. And I do also have a skein of the mohair left. The mohair is Sandisgarn silk mohair, not the tin silk mohair, which is a thinner weight. This is just silk mohair from Sandisgarn, and the colorway is Deep Petrol. Let me see if I can get the colorways for the Malabrigo. Let's see. The orange is called Volcan. The reddish, like purpley blue, is Martes. The blue is called Cumulus Gray, and then this like dusty brown with the little flecks of blue is Cielo y Tierra. And I faded those together, and it worked like a charm. I'm obsessed with this shawl. I think this is my favorite thing I've ever knit. I'm not sure how well you can see the texture. It's just garter stitch with these little mohair eyelets. Penny, do you have to bump into the tripod, dude? Chaos. Unfiltered chaos is what you're getting here, and I hope you're okay with that. If you weren't, you probably wouldn't have stayed this long. So that's my finished objects for now. And this, again, this is a pretty old finished object, but this is my first episode, so I get to show it off like it's new. Amazing. I am currently, sir, can I help you with something? Later. Later, Benny. He's so concerned about everything all the time. He just needs to be reassured at all times. So, aside from knitting, I am also a spinner, and many people don't know this, but before I even ever got my spinning wheels, I was a spindle spinner. And I have taken a break for about the past year because it does hurt my hands and it's a slow process, and I don't like how slow it moves. But I'm trying to embrace some slow making. Please don't bark, dogs. So I am taking part in the 100 Days of Spindle Spinning Challenge that I think Andrea Mowry started it, but it has blown up all over social media, which is amazing because I love spindle spinning and I think it's underrated. So I'm using my Turkish spindle. I don't love top whorls. I usually use a Turkish spindle if I'm going to use a spindle. So I'm spinning these beautiful Rollags from the Woolly Witch on Etsy. And this is what they look like. If I can get my camera to focus a little. This isn't possible, my God. I don't know if it's the lighting in this room or what. No? Nothing. Okay, well, that's as good as we're getting, apparently. It's this beautiful, like, purpley shades of merino. And then it's also got alpaca and various types of silk and some Angelina. So I've just been kind of spinning away at these Rollags for the past few days. I started later than most because for a while I was like, I'm not going to do that. And then I remembered I was going to be traveling and was going to be away from my wheel. So I decided to jump on the bandwagon after all. And I'm glad I did because it's been almost a year since I've used any. Look at me, I'm just spinning as I'm sitting here. I can't resist it. It's so addicting. I haven't spindle spun since I got my e-spinner in, like, I think it was a birthday gift, which my birthday's in March. So that would have been almost a year ago. So since then, I've just been wheel spinning, really. And I'm really happy to be back at my spindles. Clearly, I can't get enough of it. Because I'm just sitting here spinning. I didn't even mean to start. So this has been just kind of my in-between knitting. Like, my hands are kind of getting sore and I need a break, but I still want to work on something. Project. Just been winding my little turtle this whole time. And the yarn is really beautiful. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a little bit sparkly. Come on. Hello? I'm just filming on my iPhone, so I don't know how well this is going to show up, but I will be sure to show you all what it looks like once it's all plied up. I have like 3.5 more Rollags to spin. I had 2 ounces of fiber to start. So usually that'll get me like 200 something yards of my standard preferred weight of yarn, but I am also spinning this kind of woolen. So I don't know. We're going to see. Full disclosure, the mailman is starting to walk up toward the door and the dogs might start barking, so I might cut this out. We'll see. Called it. She is too much. All right, so the last thing that I want to do, and now I'm already hot because this shawl is so warm. It is a fingering weight shawl, but the mohair, Millie, oh, she's such a little brat. The mohair makes it really, really warm. So before we leave, and I want to do this with every episode because I think it's kind of fun. I want to do a little tarot reading. Like I mentioned, I'm a professional tarot reader. I left my actual deck in my bedroom, but I always have a little mini deck in my knitting bag, so that's lucky. I just bring it with me everywhere. So we're going to do a little collective reading. If you're not familiar with how tarot cards work, my personal belief is that they're compatible with every belief system and every religion. They're just pieces of paper with pictures on them. So I use them to help to identify what are some really common themes that are showing up for us. Some people are skeptical of readings done over the internet. I like to tap into collective energy if I'm not reading for anyone in particular. So like right now, some of this may resonate for some of you, some of it may not. So if it doesn't, it's probably, excuse me while I pick up my cards off the floor. If it doesn't resonate for you, it's probably not intended for you. It's probably not your energy that I'm picking up out of the crowd, so to speak. So let that kind of define this for you. If you do not consent to this reading, if you don't want to take part, you can go ahead and leave us now and we will get started with this. And I'll see you next time. If you want to continue on for our little tarot reading, I will go ahead and interpret what just came out of my deck. So some themes that are coming up for folks right now, and take what resonates for you, leave what doesn't. This might not resonate for you, but it might hit home really well and help you reflect on something important for you right now. And that reflective energy is what really matters the most, because that's what creates action. So the first card that came out was Death, and that was a pretty assertive, it flew out of the deck, really. The Death card isn't usually literal in the tarot, so this is what the image looked like. It's a light at the end of the tunnel. This is like the end of a cycle that's been really grinding your gears, and like something's coming to an end that's been really high stress for a lot of us. And I think that with the cyclic movement of the year too, there's a lot of like collective energy around ending cycles in December. And the King of Pentacles reversed is a really great reminder that this is a really good time to get our affairs in order. Our family, our home, you do a little deep clean. If you have some time off work, maybe that might be a really good time to just kind of sit on the couch with a cup of hot cocoa or tea or something like that and just get your affairs in order. And that includes your internal affairs. And something else I want to mention too, I bring this up every time it happens, just in case people don't know. I read reversals differently than many readers do. A lot of readers will read a reversal as the inverse meaning of that card. I read it as an internal energy. So it might either be a blockage or just a hint at what's going on internally in your kind of internal realm. I just said the word internal so many times, but versus an upright card, which would be an external for something happening around you or to you. I know the mailman is still there. Just get over it. Goodness, he's so dramatic. The King of Pentacles is a really nice card to come up reversed this time of year for me because it's a gift-giving card. I love, sorry, I always forget about my microphone. I don't often use one. I love gift-giving holidays, and having grown up very Irish Catholic, Christmas is very much a great excuse for me to do that. So if that's something that you really love, lean into that. Or maybe this is an opportunity for you to receive instead of giving so much, if that's something that is standing out for you. The Seven of Pentacles reversed is the next card that came up. Everything's really washed out in this room. It's because there's snow on the ground. It's just reflecting funny. It is what it is. The Seven of Pentacles reversed. It's still recording. My battery's low, so I'm going to wrap it up. Seven of Pentacles reversed is a card about hard work. And this shows me that like whatever you've been working towards as an internal shift lately is starting to come to fruition. You're starting to see things paying off slowly but surely. You're not there yet. It's a prompt to keep going because it's working. Like this is kind of the point where, to use kind of a metaphor, like, you know, when people go off psych meds because they start working and they're like, well, I didn't feel like I needed them anymore. Yeah, because they were working. That's what this is. The Two of Swords reverse is the next card. This is about decision making. There's a decision that needs to be made, and this is a decision that only you can make. And then the Magician. This is about that decision. This is a decision about a manifestation you're trying to bring into your life. And when I say the word manifestation, I don't just mean like, I want some money, and so the universe is going to throw some money at me. No. Usually what happens is you say, I would like to be more financially secure, and the universe hands you a raise or a different type of work opportunity. Things like that, or a gift, or a lottery ticket, things like that. Doesn't always happen like that, like the lottery ticket kind of thing, but that's one way that could manifest. The Magician is all about making your dreams come true. It's about creating an environment where you feel like you can thrive creatively, where you feel like you can thrive mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And it's about you orchestrating that space. So if you are going on that deep clean right now, maybe rearrange your furniture and make something about your space your own. Do a little bit of refresh, reset, so that when you do go into that new year, your energy is in a much more grounded place and you're making decisions out of a sense of stability and not out of impulse. So that's the wisdom I've got for you from the cards this week. I don't think I have anything else to show you all. Aside from knitting plans, I don't have a whole lot else planned for the week. I'm going to take my dad out to dinner tomorrow night for Christmas. He loves experiences, so we're taking my brother and sister and I and my stepmom's kids are taking them out to dinner tomorrow to celebrate the holiday. So that's really all I have planned for the week, which is wonderful. So I'm going to sit here and probably finish this, and I will see you all next time. And maybe next time will be a Christmas video. We'll see. So take care. Happy knitting, and I will see you next time. Bye! I forgot to tell you all about the Q&A form. So I don't have any questions this week because it's episode 1, but I did create a Google form for you all to drop any questions you have for me. And I will check it for every future episode, and we'll see what comes up. So if you have a question about a pattern, it doesn't have to be one of my patterns. If you have a question about, it does need to be something that I can kind of figure out without having the pattern in front of me. So you do need to kind of describe your problem. I will say I'm not a knitting instructor, and I am not a hugely experienced knitter. I just kind of knit whatever I feel like knitting, and design whatever I feel like I have the skills and capacity to design. So I'm not sure I'll be able to answer every question, but I will do my best. You're also more than welcome to ask questions about my preferences, my knitting life, my life. But I will put that link in the description, and we can go from there. And my mom's dog is whining at me because he wants my attention, so we're going to go play with Benny, and he's going to chill out. So use that Q&A form if you have any questions for me. We'll add that to the agenda for next time. Stop whining at me. And I will see you next time. Take care. You guys are impossible. Okay. Bye. Come here.